All right, so we are back on the W.A.D.E Concept presented by The Ring Magazine. I am here at the Fontainebleau. I don't even know if it's French. I just say it that way. Here in Las Vegas for Canelo versus Crawford fight week. Folks, do not forget, I don't know if I said this already in my last video, but I am going to be live on this channel Thursday and Friday for Canelo Crawford Radio Row. There's going to be a ton of boxers, fighters, I heard WWE wrestlers, celebrities, and the who's who of people in Vegas. And we're going live, and we're going to try to talk to the people. We're going to try to get predictions live on the show. It's going to be guests. It's going to be interviews. It's going to be a blast, and I don't want you guys to miss it. So make sure you're tuned in. I think it's going to be Thursday at 9:30 a.m. PST, which is 12:30 p.m. EST. I think the same thing on Friday, but stay locked in here on the channel. It's going to be fun. But today I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, today was the grand arrivals. We got to see Canelo Alvarez. We got to see Terence "Bud" Crawford. Both guys look confident. Both guys look to be in great shape. Terence Crawford dispelled the rumor. And again, I might have contributed to a bit of the misinformation here, so I apologize. But he's in shape, all right? He is cut up, he is shredded, and he looks big for the weight class. I will not lie. He looks like he's filling into 168 pounds very well. But again, it's not just about the size difference. It's about the difference in the size of the fight that Terence Crawford is taking on. Super middleweight is not welterweight, is not super welterweight. It is 2, maybe 3 weight classes above where he's comfortable fighting. We'll see how that affects him. Canelo was aura farming. I can't lie. He showed up looking like the Pope. People were screaming, babies were flying in the air, and he ascended up the escalator and did like the Queen's wave to the people. It was insane. I couldn't believe a fighter had that much aura in boxing. Canelo still runs this shit. Now, today I promised a part 2 of the series that I started yesterday talking about why one fighter wins this fight. Yesterday was Canelo. Today is Terence Crawford. So why does Terence Crawford beat Canelo? How does Terence Crawford beat Canelo? And can it actually be done? Well, I think so. And here's why. The breakdown, let's go. All right, so first and foremost, let's address the things that I said in yesterday's video. If you haven't seen that, make sure you watch the Canelo video, then come back here. But I said yesterday that there was going to be some things that Crawford had to do that may get him into trouble. There was going to be some weaknesses that Crawford had. Number one, yes, it's his brand new fight at 168 pounds. It is going to be a bit of a mystery how he comes into this weight class. There were some rumors of a shoulder injury. I'm not putting any stock into that because I don't think we can unless there's anything official really out there. Point being, there's got a lot of question marks around Terence Crawford. This video, we are going to suppose that those question marks are answered in full force by Terence Crawford being an absolute monster at this weight class. It's a lot of assuming, but it's kind of what we have to do to see the best version of Terence Crawford in this fight. So let's assume the weight doesn't bother him. Let's assume he is fully healthy, not injured. Let's assume that Canelo's power is not too much from him coming up from 147, 154 to 168. Let's assume all that's true. How does Terence Crawford win this fight? Number one, he has to get Canelo's respect early. Terence Crawford is not going to fight this fight on his back foot, circling around the ring like William Skull or Edgar Berlanga, any of these guys that got hit by Canelo and went, ooh, no, I don't want any part of that. That can't happen. And do not forget, by the way, that Charlo was 154 undisputed champion coming up and fighting Canelo in his own right, and Canelo made that easy work, light work. And I know that Charlo is not Terence Crawford. My point is, it's not easy to do, so you have to get Canelo's respect. He is someone that is going to try to walk you down until you stop him. The guys that got his respect and turned the tide of their fights were Triple G and Dimitri Bivol, and for different reasons that we're going to go over. Floyd Mayweather danced on Canelo. He was able to manipulate Canelo's walking down forward pressure, flat-footed, plotty kind of movement to walk him into space and counter him, circle out. I don't see Terence Crawford taking a Floyd Mayweather role here. For everybody saying Terence Crawford's a runner, he's going to run from Canelo, I'm not even sure people have watched Terence Crawford fight. When has he ever run from anyone? And you don't change what got you to the dance regardless of the weight you're fighting at. You may have to do some things differently. You may not be able to engage on every single exchange, but he's not just going to become a back foot defensive slick shoulder roll fighter that doesn't throw punches and tries to just navigate with his jab and circle. That's not him, and that's not who he's going to be in this fight. And honestly, yesterday I talked about there being risk in him fighting in the pocket with Canelo, but I believe he needs to take that risk. I think coming out and establishing himself early in this fight is the risk necessary for him to win, because what Canelo is a very flat-footed, plotting, power punching manipulator of space. At his best, he is a great counter puncher that uses slick upper body movement to make you miss, and then he makes you pay with big time punishment. But those punches come usually one at a time, or 1 and 2 at a time, unless he's setting things up and moving forward offensively, where he'll double that jab up and bang the right hand. If you get Canelo in the pocket and fighting in the pocket, most of the time he's going to try to make you miss and then counter with 1 or 2 big ones. What I think Terence Crawford's best path to victory here is utilizing something like a Triple G style of fighting that was controlled with the jab and then heavy combinations after the fact. Where he got Canelo to back up was because when they both entered range, or they both were in the pocket, Canelo would make Triple G miss a couple of times, but then Triple G would keep firing. Or Canelo would make him miss and throw 1 or 2, and Triple G would try to make him miss or take a punch and throw 2, 3, 4. He was outstriking Canelo in their first fight continuously, and he was kind of beating Canelo at his own game and pushing Canelo backward and making Canelo settle to being on the ropes and calling Triple G on and being like, you can't hurt me. If Terence Crawford has any semblance of that and is able to outwork Canelo in the pocket and is able to make those risks that he eventually has to take, right? Being in the pocket, looking to make Canelo miss with those big power punches and then capitalize on that check right hook and that left hand down the pipe. If he can do those things, it's going to give Canelo real problems, and it's going to make Canelo break his rhythm. And that's one of the bigger things that Canelo thrives on, is being a bit of a rhythm fighter. Again, you're not going to see a ton of output from Canelo in this fight. You're not going to see him throw 60 to 70 punches around. That's not him. He is going to try to make every single punch count. But if you're Crawford, what have you thrived on your entire career is making people that throw heavy punches pay for their lack of output and their output of strength at the same time by catching in between the punches and being very snappy with your replies. I fully expect Terence Crawford to be a southpaw most of this fight, just because I do think it gives him the advantage of working his jab and staying away from the big right hand of Canelo Alvarez. I don't think Terence wants to circle toward the power hand of Canelo, where he's trying to jab his way into that overhand. We've seen my last video, Terence does sometimes get himself caught with overhands by being in the pocket and looking to exchange. But I think him staying southpaw, and if he is going to pivot out, pivoting away from that big power right hand. Yes, Canelo has a dangerous left hook, and that liver is going to be there from a southpaw fighter. Bud's probably going to be for most of this fight, but I think his best avenue and his best talent, honestly, is him as a southpaw fighter. People talk about Bud being a switch hitter, and maybe that can be useful in the sense of switching in combination or using it as a cover to gain range or get back into the pocket or to exit out. But to fight for elongated periods out of orthodox, I don't think Bud should do in this fight. I think that's a bad idea. So that's number one. You got to get Canelo's respect. And I said this in my video yesterday, which was me breaking down how Canelo wins. But I'll say the same thing here. I think Bud Crawford is going to win 2 to 3 to 4 of the first 6 rounds. I do believe that it will take Canelo a little bit longer to get going. And I assume both guys are going to be a bit patient in the first couple of rounds, where no one's going to really, exceed and exude a ton of energy. But I expect Crawford to be a little more busy, and I expect him to be, I don't want to call it a pride thing, but I do think there is a bit of a message, a tone that needs to be set from Crawford that Canelo's just not going to take over this fight, and it's not going to be the Canelo show. Meaning Crawford gets going early and he gets going off, and we're going to find out what Crawford's power translates like to 168. It was a big deal from him at 135, 140, and 147. At 54 against Madrimov, he still hit Madrimov with some big stuff, and he still left marks all over his face, but he didn't hurt him with anything. I don't know if that was the style of fighter, because Madrimov is more of a, a Soviet kind of Eastern European boxer, or what that was because, but there is going to be a point early in this fight where Canelo is going to download how hard Crawford is hitting him. There's places for Crawford to use some of his bait and switch tactics here. And what I mean is control Canelo with that jab, touch him a couple of different times with some soft jabs, and bang, a big jab down the middle and snap the head back at Canelo. That would be something that interrupts the Canelo pressure and the Canelo timing and his rhythm of fighting. We talked about this earlier. I would say that's the next point we need to go to. Crawford trying to break the rhythm of Canelo. Canelo's already, like I said, a low output fighter, meaning he's already not poised to throw a ton of punches. If you break his rhythm, while he's trying to get to range by continually snapping that jab off and making sure the tone is set when he walks forward, he's eating that lead hand. That was something, again, I keep bringing Triple G back into it because I think, again, out of the southpaw stance, but I think there are things that Crawford can do that Triple G really took advantage of. He broke a lot of Canelo's rhythm with his jab. Same thing with Dimitri Bivol. Bivol kept things super simple. Jab, circle, combination, circle. I don't see Bud fighting that way. It's not the way he fights. But the jab was the most useful part of what Bivol did. And I thought one of the biggest things that changed the fight and changed the outlook of that first fight for Triple G was the fact that he was just consistently making Canelo reframe and consistently making him restart and consistently getting him out of rhythm. If you just diminish Canelo offensively and make him become a little bit more defensive or frustrate him to where he's winging out shots from way back. And Canelo already is at a reach disadvantage here with Terence Crawford. If he stays long with that jab, gets Canelo to fire something, wing something off that's not even close, sees the shots, gets underneath it or slips outside of it and is able to then come back with that second counter, that second wave of combinations, that's where Terence Crawford lives. That's where his bread is fucking buttered. And that's what Bomac and those guys have been talking about when they say we're going to push him back. We're not going to get bullied in there. We're going to see who the bigger man is, right? They're talking that talk because they are confident, one, that Crawford can take Canelo's punches if need be, but two, that they're not going to have to because they're going to interrupt Canelo's rhythm. They're going to make sure they're the ones getting off, even if it means they get off first more, even if it means they go first and make Canelo counter, slip that counter, and come back with their own, playing the game within the game. And I said it yesterday, Terence is going to play the game. Have no doubt about it. He's going to be there. The risk reward of standing in front of Canelo Alvarez, he's going to do it. And it's not just a pride thing, but it's kind of the way he has to fight because that's how he fights. You don't just change everything when you get to this level. You have to be you, and that is who Terence Crawford is. I don't mean this disrespectfully. I mean it in the most high regard. He is the most skilled brawl-style fighter you'll find, and I don't mean he's just winging punches. I mean he's ready to throw down. Stand there in the middle, not flat-footed, but be in the pocket looking to counter as soon as you throw. Watch when Terence Crawford's biggest shots, when he hits someone like Errol Spence in between. It's when Spence is a little hesitant. He's throwing one, or he's throwing that backhand, and Crawford is triggering. As soon as he sees a twitch, he comes with the hook, bang, or the bang, bang over the top, or he goes body shot upstairs, uppercut. There was a couple of different times in this camp that I've seen Crawford working that triple lead hook, right? Not that he's going to throw that a ton, but really showing that lead hook to maybe get Canelo to either bend underneath it and roll it, and here comes that uppercut. There's another shot of Bomac, and I think Terence Crawford working the mitts, and again, everybody works on different combinations, but a lead uppercut from Terence Crawford, and I think that is because Canelo is so upper body centric with his defense. Canelo will stand in front of you, he will plant his feet, and he will look to move his head to get in positions to throw his counter shots, but sometimes that means that head comes down, rolls underneath, down, rolls underneath, and I kept seeing Terence Crawford out of the southpaw stance work those uppercuts, like backhand lead, bang, no setup, just boom, go. And I have a feeling that's to establish Canelo, you can't just stand in here and move your head. If you do, if you try to roll underneath something, if you go here, boom, that uppercut's coming underneath it. And they're going to throw it with some big time power. So those are the keys, I think, for Terence Crawford. You got to get respect and not get pushed back against the ropes and playing Canelo's game where he walks you down and you try to Floyd Mayweather the shit, go high guard, shoulder roll, and try to counter off it. That's not Terence Crawford. He has to get respect, stand in the middle of that ring and say, I'm not going backward. He has to be early and he has to be often with his jab. And I think with the counter volume, stifle Canelo. Do not allow him to just dictate the pace of this fight by slowing everything down. And now you're throwing one and he's throwing one, and you're throwing two and he's throwing two. Everything is you go, I go. He's not shutting Canelo's offense down. Instead, he's letting him get off just to find ways to try to counter behind it. He's got to stifle Canelo a bit and frustrate him. And here's the last part of this, which it's not going to sound very nice, but it's the truest statement. You have to beat Canelo convincingly. Point blank period, you have to. Let's be honest. In boxing, there is a such thing as an A-side judging or preferred judging sometimes. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case tonight, but we've seen it even in Canelo's past. You go to the first Triple G fight, you go to some other fights that people even say the second Triple G fight was pretty close. But the point being, there have been times where Canelo has gotten favorable scorecards when it was clear to most people that he did not deserve that. How do you avoid it? You have to clearly beat Canelo. And I don't even mean knocking him out, because as many scenarios as I come up with, I just don't see Terence Crawford knocking Canelo out. So to act like there's a way to do it, I'm sure there is, right? If Canelo didn't see a punch, he gets clipped by something, regardless of Canelo's neck strength, and he hasn't really ever been hurt like that. You don't see something and you get clipped, it's boxing. Everybody can go down. But Terence Crawford, in my opinion, has to clearly beat Canelo. I mean, get up on those scorecards and run away with this thing. And again, those points that I laid out earlier is the way he does that. He has to continue to keep pressure on Canelo. He has to continue to stifle Canelo, and he has to clearly beat him. I just see Terence Crawford, if he's going to win, he's going to have to win by 3, 4, 5 rounds, which means, again, you want to rack those first 4 out of 6. You want to be able to maintain it late into the fight. You're going to have to play risky. You're going to have to do things that normally you wouldn't have to do. You're going to have to be in Canelo's face. There's a lot of things that Terence Crawford is not used to that he's going to have to do this time around. But out of the two of them, who is more equipped to do that? That'd be Terence Crawford. I do think he's the more well-rounded fighter in terms of his offense to defense, his selection in punching, his accuracy while punching, going forward, going backward. Yes, his ability to fight in both stances, but more so his ability to counter whilst not being out of the pocket, keeping exchanges, being in the pocket, being defensive in the pocket, but also countering with feet, angle switch, and making people pay for winging power shots that aren't necessarily set up with much, which is kind of what Canelo has been doing over his last couple of fights. So if you have a plotty fighter in Canelo, who is, regardless of what you think, over the last couple of years, definitely slowed down, has not been the same Canelo that we even saw fight Caleb Plant, Terence Crawford can take advantage of that with the things that we've seen him do to fighters that are plotty, to fighters that haven't been able to keep up with his pace. And quite frankly, with the last point we'll end off on, Terence Crawford has an inability to lose that Canelo just doesn't have right now. And I'm not saying Canelo's a loser or anything like that, but Terence Crawford has never lost as a professional, and that has to count for something, right? Canelo has seen defeat. There have been ways that you can say that is how you beat Canelo because people have beaten Canelo doing it. Floyd Mayweather, defensive prowess, making Canelo miss, making him pay, being very slick on the back foot. Dimitri Bivol on the front foot, stifling Canelo's offense with a jab, with a right hand, with movement, with circling, combination circling, stifle. Triple G, in my opinion, the first fight around. Being able to stifle Canelo whilst remaining in the pocket with him, throwing more punches, being more volume heavy, being able to take power punches from Canelo, but fire back with even more sting. These are the things you can say work against Canelo because you've seen them work and you've seen people beat him. Terence Crawford has been hit by punches. Terence Crawford has been losing fights in some cases, but he has never lost a fight. And at the end of the day, if you're a Terence Crawford fan, you can take to the bank that notion to say, listen, Canelo might be one of the greatest ever. He might be the greatest Mexican boxer that's ever lived. He might be one of the greats of all time. But my guy's never lost. So when it comes down to it, when shit hits the fan, I'm backing him because I just feel he's going to pull it out the fire. I just feel at any point, he doesn't know how to lose, and he will will himself to victory. I know that sounds like a lot of motivational speech talk, but sometimes that's real. When you have convinced yourself that you're unbeatable, when you have never tasted defeat, when you're a bit ignorant to what quitting means, to what losing means, to what feeling that switch of, well, it's not my night tonight. If you don't know what that feels like and you only know winning, then sometimes that's a superpower in any sport. It makes guys confident to a delusional level that somehow works to make them even more invincible or to make them more resilient in some way, to just go, oh no, this is not happening to me. I don't lose, I win. So that's a real part of this fight and one that potentially could be a major factor. So with all that said, Terence Crawford having an inability to lose, being the man that just wins. Terence Crawford being the more, I think, well-rounded of the two right now, seen as Canelo has foregone a lot of the things that he used to be in this new form of himself, which is much more of a plotty power puncher. I don't know which one's going to show up. Eddie Reynoso saying the best Canelo in 20 years is going to show up, so who knows? But you combine that with the fact that if Terence Crawford can back Canelo up and gain respect early, if he is able and willing to risk it for the biscuit, capitalize with volume punching, if he's able to establish his jab, all those things, he gets started early, that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Terence Crawford will beat Canelo Alvarez. There it is, folks. Comment below where you think I'm wrong here and give me your prediction. Do you think Terence Crawford is going to win this fight? Because we're only a couple days into fight week. Still so much more to go over. The press conference, the weigh-in, stuff we're all going to talk about here. And also, guys, we're going to be live Saturday. I don't know if we're going to be still in Vegas. Not really sure what the plan is, but if we're not here in Vegas, I can catch a flight, be home in 45 minutes, and we could be live from the studio, have some guests, have a fun time. But regardless, let me know what you guys think. Who wins Saturday and why? Because I don't have those answers, but guess we'll find out.